On my 21st birthday, my parents gave me $50 and said, "Your grandma sent this for you." A month later, my grandma came to visit. "Did you get the $10,000 I sent for your birthday?" I said, "I only got $50. Then my grandma slammed the table and started screaming, "Hey, Reddit, birthdays used to mean something to me. When I was little, Mom would bake my favorite cake, vanilla with chocolate frosting. And Grandma would always call right on time. But by the time I turned 21, everything felt different, quieter, colder. Maybe it's because I'd started noticing things I used to ignore. The way my parents always compared me to others. The way they took pride in control more than care. And that morning, I didn't know it yet, but my birthday would be the day everything changed. It started when Mom handed me a plain white envelope. She smiled, but it was the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Your grandmother sent this," she said casually. "Happy birthday, honey." I tore it open and found a single $50 bill inside. No card, no note, just cash. I smiled anyway. "Tell Grandma." I said thank you. Dad chuckled. "She's getting old," he said. "Be grateful she remembered it all." Mom nodded. "Yeah, you know how she is with money. It's the thought that counts." I laughed weakly, trying to believe them, but something felt off. Grandma had always been generous, not extravagant, but thoughtful. When I graduated high school, she'd sent me $1,000 to start adult life. Right. When my car broke down, she mailed me a check to help fix it. She always said, money should lift you up, not weigh you down. So, $50. It didn't feel like her. But I told myself not to question it. After all, it wasn't about the money. It was about love. And maybe, just maybe, I was still that naive. A month passed. Life went on. Work, bills, small routines. Until one Saturday morning, I woke up to the sound of a car door slamming outside. When I looked out the window, there she was. Grandma. I hadn't seen her in months. She was wearing her favorite pink cardigan, the one with tiny pearl buttons, her silver hair pulled back neatly, her cane tapping rhythmically against the driveway as she walked. "Surprise," she said, smiling wide as I opened the door. Her hugs were always warm, the kind that made you forget every cold thing in the world. She handed me a small box of cookies. "Made your favorite walnut chocolate chip." I laughed. "You drove all the way here just for cookies." She winked. Maybe I missed my granddaughter. Or maybe I wanted to see that birthday smile in person. We sat in the kitchen, tea steaming between us. She told me stories about her garden, about her neighbor's dog, and about how she was getting too old for drama. I didn't notice her eyes scanning the room until she finally asked, "So, did you get the money I sent you?" I blinked. "The money?" She smiled. "Yes, dear. The $10,000 I wired to your parents' account last month for your birthday." The world seemed to go still. $10,000. I repeated quietly. "Grandma, I only got $50. Her face changed instantly. The warmth drained from her smile. Her hand trembled slightly as she set her teacup down. "What do you mean you only got 50? Mom said you sent that for me." In an envelope, her eyes widened, a mix of shock, anger, and heartbreak. She stood slowly, gripping her cane, and her voice cracked with fury I'd never heard before. "They what?" Before I could stop her, she grabbed her purse. "Where are you going?" I asked. She turned to me, and in that moment, my sweet, gentle grandmother looked ready to wage war. "To your parents' house," she said firmly. "Now." The drive there was silent. Grandma's hands gripped the steering wheel like steel. I sat beside her, heart pounding, staring out the window, wondering if maybe there was some kind of misunderstanding. But deep down, I already knew. When we pulled into the driveway, Mom was watering the plants. Dad was on the porch with his tablet. They both froze when they saw Grandma. "Mom." My mother said quickly, "What a surprise." "Save it." Grandma snapped. She stormed past them, cane tapping hard against the floor as she entered the house. Grandma slammed her purse down on the table so hard it rattled the glasses. Where is it? She demanded. Mom blinked, pretending to be confused. Where is what? The $10,000 I sent for my granddaughter's birthday. Dad stood slowly, his face pale. Mom, there must be some mistake. Grandma turned on him sharply. The only mistake was trusting you with it. I stood frozen in the doorway, watching the people I thought I knew turn into strangers. Mom stammered. Mom, we didn't keep it. We used it for bills. We meant to tell you. Grandma's voice was low and shaking. You stole from your own daughter. Dad stepped in. We were struggling. Okay. It's just money. We'll pay it back. She pointed her cane at him. It wasn't yours to touch. Mom started crying, but Grandma wasn't done. She turned to me, her eyes softening. Sweetheart, I'm so sorry. I thought they gave you what was yours. I shook my head, tears streaming down. I didn't know. I would have never asked. She nodded slowly, then turned back to them. You've embarrassed me, but worse. You've betrayed her. Then she said something I'll never forget. From this day on, not a single penny more will pass from me to you. Everything goes to her. Mom gasped. Mom, you can't. Oh, I can, Grandma said, and her voice was pure steel. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. Part of me wanted to cry. Part of me wanted to scream. But mostly, I just felt free. For the first time in my life, someone saw the truth and stood up for me. When Grandma turned to leave, she looked at me and said softly, Come home with me, dear. You don't belong in a house built on lies. And I did. But what happened next wasn't just about money. When Grandma rewrote her will, my parents' desperation turned into something darker. And soon, their own greed would destroy everything they tried to take from me. The drive to Grandma's house that night was quiet. Too quiet. I stared out the window, watching the street lights pass one by one, each one like a tiny reminder that the people you trust most can break your heart without a second thought. Grandma didn't say much either. Her hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, her face calm, but her silence felt like thunder waiting to strike. When we finally pulled into her driveway, she looked at me and said softly, Don't you worry, sweetheart. I'll handle this. And when Grandma said that you believed her, the next morning, I woke up to the smell of her cinnamon pancakes, the same one she made when I was little. But this time, she didn't hum while cooking. She was angry. The quiet, dangerous kind of angry that comes from betrayal. Over breakfast, she told me what she'd done. She'd already called her lawyer. The will was being rewritten. The $10,000 was nothing compared to what my parents had just lost. Every cent of her estate, her home, her savings, her stocks was being transferred into a trust fund under my name. She sighed deeply. I worked my whole life for that money, not for them to waste it on vacations and new furniture. I stayed quiet, still trying to process everything. Part of me felt guilty. Part of me felt relieved. Then Grandma reached across the table, her wrinkled hand covering mine. This isn't about punishment, darling, she said softly. It's about protection. A week passed before we heard from my parents. At first, it was just a few texts for Mom. Please tell Grandma we're sorry. It was a misunderstanding. We were struggling. She'll understand. I didn't respond. Neither did Grandma. But then came the visit. It was a Friday evening when they showed up at Grandma's door. I could hear them arguing outside. Mom's voice sharp. Dad's voice pleading. When Grandma opened the door, Mom's eyes were already red from crying. Mom, please, she begged. You can't just cut us off. Grandma's face was cold. I didn't cut you off, dear, she said calmly. You did that yourselves. Dad stepped forward. We didn't steal, Mom. We borrowed. You know how hard things have been. Stop. Grandma interrupted, her cane tapping against the floor. I know exactly how hard it's been. You've always had trouble living within your means. And every time I helped you, but you took advantage of me and worse of her. She gestured to me. I didn't move. Mom turned toward me. Sweetheart, please. You know we love you." Her voice cracked just enough to sound believable. But I'd heard that tone before, the same one she used every time she wanted something. I looked at her and said softly, "Love doesn't lie, and it doesn't steal." Her face hardened instantly. "You're turning her against us," she snapped at Grandma. But Grandma only smiled, that small, dangerous smile I'd seen once before when she caught me lying about a broken vase at age 9. She said quietly, "I don't have to turn her against you. You've done that yourself." Dad started pacing. "Fine, keep your money, Mom. We'll manage without you." Grandma nodded. "I hope you do, but remember integrity pays better than greed ever will." He glared at me. "Congratulations," he muttered. "You've ruined your family." And then they left. The sound of the door closing felt like the end of a chapter. After that night, things changed fast. Mom stopped calling. Dad didn't show up for holidays anymore. It hurt at first. The silence, the absence, the idea that I had to lose my parents' US to find peace. But Grandma reminded me, "You didn't lose them, dear. You simply saw them clearly." Months passed. I started saving money, working more, even taking over some of Grandma's errands. She'd hand me the grocery list and say, "You're the boss now, Miss Independent." We laughed, but I could see in her eyes how proud she was. And for the first time in years, I felt safe, not just financially, but emotionally, like someone finally had my back. Then one afternoon, I came home to find Grandma sitting on the porch. A letter in her hand. It was from my parents. They'd lost their home. Their business had gone under. The same money they'd stolen was gone, spent, wasted, evaporated. Mom's handwriting trembled across the page. "We were wrong. We're sorry. Please forgive us." I sat beside Grandma silently. She looked at me and said, "What do you want to do?" I thought for a long time. Then I said quietly, "Nothing. Forgiveness isn't about giving them peace. It's about keeping mine." She smiled softly. "That's my girl now." Years later, that birthday doesn't make me angry anymore. Because that was the day I learned what family really means. Not the people who share your name, but the ones who protect your heart. Grandma taught me that money can disappear, but dignity, once stolen, is never forgotten. And every year on my birthday, she still sends me a card. No checks, no transfers, just a note that says, "You're worth more than any amount." And every time I read it, I whisper back, "Thank you, Grandma, for giving me the gift that money could never buy." Truth.